All right, ready to go? Okay, good evening, everyone. This is Mayor Hu, and I will call the study session to order. Right now, we will convene the Town Center Development Agency, TCDA, and I will invite the redevelopment manager, Farley, to present the first item, which is Town Center Development Agency briefing on the requested for qualifications for cinema site. Hello, Sean.
Good evening, Chair, and the directors of the TCDA board. This is Sean Farrelly. Tonight we're providing an update on the status of the request for qualifications for the redevelopment of a portion of the cinema site. As you know, we acquired this property last summer with 4 goals. First, to provide a neighborhood park in its growing area. Second, to build out street and trail network, increase connectivity and pedestrian safety. Third, to restore Red Rock Creek, a project that is underway and should be completed this fall. And fourth, to redevelop a portion of the site with housing mixed use. March 10th this year, TCDA board supported issuing an RFQ to seek development partner to build 1 or more buildings on the site with supporting infrastructure. This redevelopment will align with council goals and housing livability and the ECDF strategy pillar of development and placement. So concurrently, the city will also start designing and engineering the park. We get some input from the developer to see how these complement each other. So August 3rd, we released the RFQ, emailed it to 80 members of the development community from AD and DJC, the webpage. We had an info session last Wednesday, followed by a site visit. It was a very good turnout. 25 representatives from different development teams. For councils, for the challenging development climate region. We expect there to be multiple submissions from well-known developers for comments like they really like working in Tiger and the location is great. So the statement of qualifications is due on September 15th. Wanted to keep the barrier of entry fairly low the first phase because we want to get as many developers to identify themselves as possible as interested in the site. So we're asking for their vision for the site, in some detail. Identifying any challenges they see, the experience of the development team, and their experience with comparable projects. These statements of qualifications are going to be reviewed by an internal review team of real estate development advisor. We want to choose a short list of developers, shooting for 3. It's too hard to get down to 3, then we want 4. In this second phase, we will ask for more detailed information, site plans, more work out, financial information, performance, deal structures, and timing for recruitment. I'll be asked for these shortlisted teams. These proposals are going to be reviewed, and the teams are going to be interviewed by a committee that will include representatives from the TCDA board, TCAC, chamber, and potentially the committee is going to recommend a preferred development team with the final. So what I ask you tonight is to identify 2 members of the board who will be going to serve on this. Exact dates when they'll meet, tentatively early November. More solid dates. First review meeting.
We have a request from online to speak a little bit louder. What's the ceiling?
Okay.
That's all I have. We're open to any questions. Yeah.
Questions? Director Wolf.
Director Wolf. I'm just interested, Sean, and I know based on the timeline, you're probably still compiling answers, but the close date to ask city questions was the 27th. So I'm just curious, what are people asking about? What are they interested in? And so,
Yeah, we've actually compiled those. We're going to post them on Thursday. A lot of just clarifying questions from what was the RFQ, things like, would we consider more than one developer? The answer to that is going to be yes, but one has to be the master developer. So negotiating with one person. A lot of questions about the concept that we included and we stressed was a concept. How flexible it was. It is flexible, the exact location of the street connections, which is a big part of this project. Cost to build out the street. The questions about how flexible are the timing of building in the park. Questions about the TriMet park and ride lot, and TriMet representative was at the info session last week. They are currently they got a grant. They're going to develop a plan and utilize park and ride lot. That's right adjacent to the site.
I remember seeing that. Thank you. Thank you. Chair.
So this is Chair Hu, what was the commitment, time commitment look like for the RFQ review committee? How many meetings do you plan to have?
We would think at least 2, probably 3. Probably an initial one to orient everyone and get the proposals, and another one to interview the teams, and then probably the third one to decide.
So that will go into next year?
Well, it could.
Okay, so I think it will be prudent to have the 3 board members who are guaranteed to be here to serve on this committee. So I will ask for volunteers later. But I just have one question about: how about any park designs? Are they going to be finalized before the developer get involved?
So the plan is we will do it concurrently. We have to go out for an RFP to hire a park designer and engineer. The idea would be that the developer, while they're working on their own project, would provide input into the park design. Not that they're going to have final say on what the trouble with scope there, but we think it's wise to have the developers review on.
Okay. So, Director Shaw.
Thank you, Chair Hu. Director Shaw. With following up on the parks, and thank you for your question, Chair. Given that could be a very important component, will the individuals who are appointed to this committee also have a review of what's happening with the parks? Is that intended to go through the same committee, or?
We had contemplated it would be a dedicated parks committee, not to say it couldn't be some of the same, but not the TCDA board representatives want to continue on that part.
We can always decide later.
Yeah.
Right? Right now, we are asking, unless other board member have issue, which one, Director Wolf or Schlag or Shaw, which 2 of you would like to serve on the RFQ review committee?
I'd be willing to serve as a Councillor Shaw if my colleagues would agree. I said Director. Almost had it, Director Shaw, and I'd like to volunteer if my fellow directors agree.
It doesn't matter to me. So
I was interested in also serving.
perfect.
This is Director Schlepp. I'm also interested.
Okay. Anybody?
So that's great. So, but my question, Director Wolf, Sean, so I was surprised when you said November, if it closes mid-September, that you think it'll be 6 weeks before the process just starts. So that was my only curiosity. I don't know, it's still probably the safer route to go. But I was surprised at the 6 week delay.
I think we could have a first meeting. I wouldn't want to commit to it.
Okay.
It's a tentative idea. In a couple weeks, we're going to have it all kind of laid out. So what it looks like. A lot of it's going to depend on how long do we want to give the shortlisted teams time to respond. And you know, have the holidays in there, so that's going to be complicating factors.
Okay.
Maybe
Yeah, and
early November might be. I'll say.
Yeah. And Sean, I forgot about the second rank, like the short list, and to give that time. So, okay.
Right. Any questions, comments, concerns about anything we discussed so far?
As Director Shaw, excited to get this process started, so very excited.
I see some raising hands.
As I'm
Some
with
see no
you, Sean.
hand raised. All right, so thank you, Sean. Thank you for the update, and we will have Director Shaw and Schlack serving as the RFQ Review Committee liaison. Thank you. Thank you. All right, so let's move on to the next. While I will reconvene the City Council for the remainder of the meeting. Next item on the agenda, I will invite Assistant to the City Manager Hendricks to present feasibility of establishing Senior Advisory Board. Good evening, Nicole.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Good to see you again. My name is Nicole Hendricks, Assistant to the City Manager. So I'm here tonight to provide information on the feasibility of creating a city senior advisory board and look to you all for guidance on some next steps. This discussion is in response to conversations we've had in the spring about board and committee improvements and some council members expressing interest in additional information or just feasibility of a senior advisory board for the city. So the city team reviewed some nearby examples of senior advisory committees in the region and found 4 examples that were ran by nonprofits or county organizations that represented seniors. And then we found 3 examples from the cities of Sherwood, Beaverton, and Lake Oswego that manage their own senior boards or related to seniors or aging in place. Their missions and additional information for each of those committees is attached in your agenda item packet in your packet. So Tiger currently uses several avenues to engage with and support our seniors. Staff meet regularly with the Senior Center to understand the support needs and help promote senior activities. The city also maintains a dedicated webpage for the Senior Center and uses our social media channels to promote upcoming senior events and resources. Additionally, the Tiger Public Library and Parks and Recreation program provide programming for a variety of ages, including seniors. And I will use this opportunity to promote that the Public Library, through a partnership with Washington County, is providing an Aging in Place program once a month starting next week, September 9th, also on October 14th and November 4th. And that will be an opportunity for seniors to learn about resources that help maintain their independence and Tiger. So these are the kinds of opportunities that allow us to collaborate with seniors in the community and get feedback from them on their experiences and improve our services for it. So one of the main considerations that we were looking at when reviewing the feasibility of another committee is staff capacity. So establishing and maintaining a new board would require ongoing staff support for meeting logistics, recruitment, member management, and the list goes on. And currently staff does not have the capacity to support an additional committee. We did add another committee, the Houseless Advisory Board, through our last conversation. And so if council wants to proceed with the creation of a new senior advisory committee, then we would come back for another conversation and bring back some of the trade-off items. So what would we not do instead of the senior advisory committee? So given the current coordination I mentioned earlier and just the limited staff capacity. The staff recommendation is to continue use of existing avenues and exploring ways to incorporate senior representation into policy issues rather than creating a new board. And one of the ways we thought we could do that was to ask our Committee for Community Engagement to include seniors as a demographic that should be represented in their equity analysis of each item. So they're planning on incorporating an evaluation of equity questions for each agenda item that comes before the committee. And so if we identify specific populations like seniors that are at risk, that we can prioritize and make sure that they're represented at the table and considered in that evaluation, then that is one way we can make sure that we're having that representation. And so with that, I'll hand it back over to you, Mayor, and looking at the counselors just for reactions or guidance on next steps.
Questions? Councilor Shaw.
Thank you, Director. And we're back in.
Back.
Council-
We're back in. We're back in.
Back in. Councilor Shaw. Thank you, Nicole, for all the work you did on this. I know it was at my request, because I do walk through a number of different communities that have more, as I've been told, seasoned seniors or seasoned adults, or aging in place adults. And a lot of them are not on social media. And so they felt left out because that was the primary mode of communication by the city. And so they didn't hear about many events or opportunities, whether it be at the senior center or at the library. I thought it was creative to have the CCE outreach. I don't know if that's going to be targeted enough for this community. And I know initially when we talked about reconfiguring the committee, we were going to have a seasoned senior on each one of the committees. And I'm not sure where that went. And perhaps what we could do instead of revisiting that, we could potentially, though it may get us past the 9 members, but add a seasoned senior person to the CCE committee. So at least they have a voice. And I know this may not be able to be solved tonight, but I do think that we anticipate these folks to be savvy when it comes to social media, and they're just oftentimes not. So I'm afraid we're just going to leave them behind.
That's helpful feedback, and that's something around communications. We can definitely follow up with our communications team and see what other avenues there are to make sure we're not just focused in on social media, especially for the programming for seniors and things like that. We can get information out a different way. I think in the conversation around having a senior representative on each board, I think some of the feedback was, well, then do you have a representative from all the different ages? And then how do you make sure that representation is equal? And so I kind of remember some, like, I think that's why it didn't move forward, was like, well, then do you have a youth person on age? But we have the Youth Advisory Council, and that's why you mentioned the seniors. So it kind of
how we got to the senior committee.
And so I do remember that conversation. And yeah, I can explore further with the CCE to see if, and maybe we get feedback from seniors in the community if they feel like the set of questions is representative enough, like get some feedback on that process to make sure, to your concern, that that process is helpful in representing senior voices. But yeah, some reactions to that. Yeah.
Just quickly following up, I appreciate, because I know it's a lot of staff time, so I wasn't looking to add extra staff time. It's more how do we address community questions with regards to those seniors. So,
No, thank you, Councilor Shaw and Nicole. Great research, and I support staff's recommendation. The curiosities that I have is, even if we don't designate a senior person on every committee, I still think it's fair to kind of have those questions. What is the impact to this particular group? Because they are different than a group of 45-year-olds or 35-year-olds. And I think that's fair to just kind of be cognizant of those needs, whether it's parks or libraries, and what services. So I think there's a great opportunity to be creative in how we create opportunities. What I'm curious about is, does the senior center have a senior advisory board that gives them, because that's what I felt is we have a unique partnership where Tualatin, I think, manages their senior senators, Sherwood does, or it was Beaverton had the chamber, I can't remember, but so then I'm like, well, what do they do to get guidance about programs, and those types of things? Do they have their own advisory board?
I'm not aware of one, but we can check and ask them when we meet with them again. We have monthly meetings with them, so unless anyone else is aware that they, yeah.
Okay.
So we can follow up and see.
Okay, because I just thought that might be an opportunity.
Yeah,
as well.
definitely.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Nate.
Councilor Shaw.
Well, thank you. This is Councilor Jake Schlacke. I agree with Councilor Shaw and Council President Wolf. Some of the questions they raised. I'm fine with proceeding with the staff recommendation of making sure that seniors are called out as part of the equity sort of considerations that committee's doing. And I'd love to come back at some point and see if we think that that's sufficiently addressing the needs. Because I know when Councilor Shaw and I both supported assessing the feasibility of a senior advisory board, it wasn't necessarily of having people of a certain age on every committee, because we probably would already meet those considerations looking at our current list of board and committee members. It's more about how do we ensure that Tigard is a great place to age in place from a variety of different perspectives, which is, I think, why the idea of a dedicated board appealed to me at least. So if the staff thinks that, adding a senior demographic as part of equity considerations on CCE and maybe other boards would be sufficient to address those needs, I'm open to consider it for a period of time and see how it works. And we can come back to it in like a year or two if we don't think that it's meeting needs. I'd also 1 year.
1 year.
Okay.
My
1 year.
language is less sharp during study sessions, of course. Yeah, like come back in a year and see, do we think it's addressing the needs for seniors as well as other demographics that we're considering as part of those equity considerations? And then we can recalibrate as necessary. In general, I'm not a huge fan of having a huge amount of designated positions on boards. And I think 9 is a number that we all felt really comfortable with. So if we do go with designated positions, I'd say keep it at 9 and just make at least one of those.
Yeah.
Have a specific role like we're already doing with everybody. And I'm also very curious about if we can partner with the senior center for maybe some sort of community group or something that can help solicit feedback. So it's not a city funded one, but it's still a community based sort of feedback group. Anyway, I feel like I just repeated a lot of the thoughts of my colleagues, but I wanted to put that on the record. Thank you.
Well, there's Summerfield, right? And King City probably has some kind of association too. I know they have an HOA. But getting information, I think, is pretty key. That leap to actually serving on a committee, I think, is pretty good. I think that they like the information. If they can't navigate basic internet stuff, they probably wouldn't want to be on the committee. But so I'm in agreement.
That was Councilor Anderson.
Oh, councilors.
And Councilor Caducci, overall, I agree that CC is an appropriate place to have that lens put through everything that they're doing. In terms of the outreach, I agree with Councilor Shaw. A lot of them do end up just getting their Tigard news from basically Tigard Life because that comes directly to the house. So making sure that we can continue to support wherever we can so that they're getting the information.
Councilor Robbins, do you have anything to add?
No, I think you guys covered it. Thank you.
Okay. Go ahead, Council President Wolf.
So the only, Council President Wolf, the only thing I would like to add is to make a plug. Councilor Shaw and I met with Stacy Triplett, and ARC has the age-friendly program. I know staff attended their conference in Salem last year. So I guess I would, maybe that's part of the strategic plan or back to that idea. But I think there's really, great frameworks to leverage and partner with if it's something that we're serious about and want to make that as part of our vision for the city. So that's my plug. Thank you.
And this is Mayor Hu. For me, I'm fine with the 1 year trial period of having maybe a designated senior position, as discussed at CCE.
Well, we would,
Not designated.
Yeah,
What the designated
it'd be a framework
Yeah,
to
okay.
represent,
Okay.
yeah, okay.
Yeah.
we see if that works for 1 year with CCE, asking, including adding senior questions to the
Okay.
equity
Yeah.
framework, and
Okay.
then we'd see how that worked for a year and then revisit.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. I'm fine with that. And And also appreciate Council President Wolf's
Yeah.
suggestion on senior center and Councilor Anderson's suggestion on the Summerfield and King City Retirement Village. I don't know if we can get them into the mix somehow, because I'm thinking along the line of having a Tiger High School envoy quarterly update. So maybe we can have one of the senior representatives from one of those three to provide quarterly update, because I've been visiting senior center almost monthly now, and they have a lot of stuff going on. So I would like them to come before council and report like the Tiger High School envoy, blah blah blah, a bunch of activities. I would be interested in learning about what's going on. I think that's a great way of showcasing what our seniors are, how their active lives are like in Tiger. So maybe you can ask.
We can, yeah.
Hopefully that doesn't take a lot of time. Like ask the senior center or the retirement village in King City or the Summerfield HOA to see if they have anybody willing to just come to City Council once a quarter, just to give us an update of what they're up to.
It's Councilor Anderson, and obviously most of that is in King City.
Right.
So maybe there's a city that's.
So
Councilor Shaw might be an opportunity too, given Council President's comments about the senior center. Perhaps there's someone there too. We could even have this an envoy once a quarter.
Yeah.
So we're just kind of tying it all up.
Yeah. Okay, we can follow up.
they have many active
Nice
members of senior
suggestion
center
there.
that I see every time. So
Like that suggestion, Mary. Thank you.
so those two, I think those are the two main points.
Good.
And we'll give it a try and see what happens. Okay.
Thanks for the
All right, thank you, Nico. All right, so let's move on to, I seem to remember we just had a liaison report, right? We'll have another one. So, Councilor Schlack, you want to start? Go ahead.
Yes, I had no meetings with my liaison boards and committees since my last update, but there is a meeting of CHART on Thursday that was rescheduled from its original date. So that is on Thursday, and I will provide an update at our next liaison report.
Okay.
We give Councilor Shaw a similar circumstance at the summer months, so quite a few of them took the time off tomorrow, and I'm again, Councilor Gudusi, because you and I, one of us will be attending the transportation committee, and then there's several more coming up, so I expect to have a lengthier report at the next liaison reporting meeting.
And TTAC and TEC Town Center had their combined tour of downtown a couple of weeks ago, which was really nice to sort of see the developments that are coming up, some of the proposals. The Water Advisory Board also met, continued to talk about some of the emergency propositions, and I'm sure it will come to the council.
Thank you, Councilor Gudusi. Councilor Anderson.
Okay, I actually missed CCE, and Nicole gave a great summary. Looks like most of the talk was about the new bylaws,
Okay.
and it will affect two of the members because they're not citizens or residents, because they're outside the boundaries. But good discussion.
President Wolf, you have.
Yeah, just a couple things. WEA did have a board meeting, but I think I want to highlight, and I forwarded you all the slide deck from Hillsborough's community development, economic development manager around data centers. I just thought it was a really great presentation to give clarification around the types of data centers, what Hillsborough is doing, how that's impacting their community. So hopefully those of you that were interested had a chance to look at that. And then also after that, they also hosted an education summit, which really focused a big piece also on workforce development, because of course that's the huge interest at WEA. And some of the work that Lewis and Clark will be doing in conjunction with Representative Bowman as he starts his day job there. So those are my two big flags. And then also the Chamber of Commerce had their GAP committee meeting, and most of it was my update about what council was doing. And then just election updates and what have you. But anyway, so that's it for me.
I don't want to put you on the spot, but what's your biggest takeaway from the data center presentation?
Oh my gosh. Well, for me, one of the biggest things for me is to understand what are the types of data centers that are in Hillsborough versus the mega centers, which might be more so in Eastern Oregon or on the 84 corridor. The other thing I think was really interesting is what are those data centers providing and the use in terms of advancing technology and some of those other components to really understand the industries that the data centers are supporting. And the use of, as technology continues to improve, the use of water and some of those concerns, and really that's not happening as that, again, those technologies continue to improve in data centers. So those were my biggest things, is to really better understand the purposes. And the reality is, of course, it started, how many of you are looking at your phone right now? How many of you, everything that we do is really driven by data, which of course is then in a storage capacity somewhere. So I just found it really educational for me, and to really understand, again, the industries that these data centers are supporting here in Washington County versus across the state.
Okay, thank you.
Anyway.
Can I do a shout out? Thank you so much, Council President Will, for saying that, because there has been so much misinformation about data centers, and most are closed loop. They're reusing the water that they had initially, so it's not a water drain as people commented on. So I really learned quite a bit about that. And again, looking in front of me with 2 cell phones, each one of us using an incredible amount of data. I think we should be mindful, but also recognize that there is a benefit to it. So thank you.
Councilor Robbins, do you have anything to report?
Yes, I attended the library board meeting, and Halsted presented a lot of very interesting data comparing various data points from last year and this year, month by month, as far as how many visits they had, how many online checkouts versus in-person checkouts, just kind of showing the increasing use, and that even, you saw the drop during the renovation, but even then still had significant use of library services. And then TIAC canceled their meeting yesterday because today was the first day of school for many of them. So they'll be resuming in 2 weeks.
Thank you. This is Mayor Hu. For me, I attended a Metropolitan Mayor Consortium meeting. We have Representative Gamba and Waters presenting. They were both former mayors. While they didn't paint a good picture of what's going to come in the next legislative session. HR 1, the big beautiful bill, will have significant cut with funding coming to the state, so it will be detrimental to state budget. And given the transportation package didn't pass in 2025 and a gas tax didn't pass in May, those things will put us in a worse position to discuss another transportation package. And they talk about, Representative Gamba talked about, he said the electricity demand in Oregon will double in 20 years. So he's sponsoring a bill to streamline power line permitting process, and the mayors strongly encourage him to get city involved. We understand the need for more power line for electricity, but at the same time, densely populated cities will be, disproportionately affected by power line building, right? So we encourage the state to, again, keep cities in mind as partners. And we also talk about supportive housing services oversight committee. And thanks to our mayor representative, we're pushing Metro really hard to come up with key KPI, key performance indicator. So far my understanding is that it's very difficult to ask basic questions, get basic question answer like, is homelessness increasing or decreasing? So I really appreciate my colleagues on the SHS Oversight Committee just constantly pushing Metro to recognize that, accountability is something that we really need in terms of homelessness funding. Also, we are in preparation for the next round of renewal. MMC now is starting to asking mayors to submit the amount of money that each city is spending on taking care of our homeless population. So thanks to Megan Cohen, who submitted those data to me. So I submitted to MMC. So, but after tomorrow, we're going to submit a list from all the cities to Metro, showing them that cities like Tiger and all the other cities we do spend money, real money, taking care of homelessness. So any further SHS renewal should consider giving funding to city directly, right? So that's all I have. Any questions or comments about any liaison report? All right, seeing none, the study session is over, and we will continue our business meeting at 6:30 p.m. Thank you, everybody. Everyone, welcome to the Tiger City Council meeting. I will call the Tiger City Council and Local Contract Review Board meeting to order. Acting City Recorder Bartholomew, would you please conduct the roll call?
Mayor Hu,
Here.
Councillor Robbins,
Here.
Councillor Schlack,
Here.
Councillor Shaw,
Here.
Council President Wolf,
Here.
Councillor Anderson,
Here?
Councillor Gadusi.
Present.
Thank you. Would everyone please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? Council and staff, do you have any non-agenda items? All right, seeing none, let's move on to public comments. The public comment period provides an opportunity for members of the public to address the City Council. While it is not a dialogue, either I or staff will follow up to address the issues brought forward in these comments. The calling number is 503-966-4101, and those wishing to comment should call now to get into the queue. Anyone present wanting to comment should sign up on the public comment form at the front of the room. First up is written comments. We received 3 written public comments by Monday noon deadline. All 3 comments were about River Terrace 2.0. Let's move on to in-person comment. So when I call your name, please come forward and speak your name and make sure the microphone is on. And let me see. We have 6, so we will have each person will have 2 minutes to provide their comments. So first one will be Bill Monahan. Would you please come forward to present your comment? Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. My question is, how much does Tigard want to hear from the public? Why isn't the survey for Tigard's housing plan featured on the city's webpage? So the August 29 Valley Times had an article that reported that Tigard's seeking public input to identify future housing needs and to develop strategies to support that housing. Yet when residents visit the city's website, the survey isn't featured on the homepage. Instead, the first item displayed is an announcement of the mayor's monthly 1-hour meetup. Why? The meetup notice was posted by at least August 26th, when I first saw it, even though the event isn't until September 24th. Now, the meetups are listed also as community events, but if you go to the community events page, it's clear that they're not city-organized events. They're routine activities initiated by the mayor. The housing survey doesn't appear on the web page's first page as you open it up. There's a spotlight section, there's a news list, it's not there. There is, however, on that page, an invitation for residents to submit their photos for the Public Works calendar, but nothing about the housing survey. If Tigard truly wants residents to complete the housing preference survey, the city should make it easy to find, ideally by placing it prominently on the homepage with a direct link. Instead, the mayor's event, which I'm told draws about 10 people, occupies the prime homepage space. To find the surveys, here's what you have to do, because I looked for it and I filled it out. Residents have to search through the site, eventually locate it under the Tigard Housing Plan on the Community Development page. There, it appears as the 12th item of a list on the left side of the page. So if you're lucky enough to find it, you can do that. Is Tigard generally interested in citizen input? If so, it should begin by making the input for this project easier to provide. Important surveys that help guide housing decisions deserve prominent website placement, especially when compared with a small monthly event. The council could also consider
Bill,
giving
your 2
residents-
minutes up.
Thank you very much. Bring back a better Tigard.
Thank you. All right, so next item on the agenda is Andrea Campbell. Hopefully I read that correctly.
All right, so Andrea, welcome. Please make sure the microphone's on and you have 2 minutes. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor Hu and members of the council. My name is Andrea D'Amico Campbell. I reside at 13090 Southwest Vandermost Road, and I'm very much in support of River Terrace 2 and all it will offer to the community. My concern is for the 26 acres along Vandermost, with 12.25 of those acres being significant natural resources, leaving approximately 13.75 acres of buildable land. Vandermost is a dead-end street with a stream that feeds into the Tualatin River that parallels along Vandermost Road. In 2020, Washington County approached putting a bridge across the stream, and back then the estimate was over $50 million. Oregon State Fire Code for dead-end streets, Section D107 reads developments of one or more family dwellings where the number of dwelling units exceed 30 shall provide 2 separate and approved fire apparatus roads. We already have 7 residences on the road, leaving room for 23 new homes. In all practicality, a builder is going to go for the fast, easy-to-build areas. In the meantime, parcels that are brought into the city of Tigard along Vandermost will have to pay higher property taxes, and they will not be as appeasing to be developed as other areas of River Terrace. The land that was swapped from Clackamas to Washington County to make River Terrace 2 was land that was hard to build on. The cost to prepare the land wiped out the builder's profit, therefore it just sat until it was swapped. But those properties weren't annexed into the city yet and didn't have higher property taxes. It was another approach to annexing. River Terrace 2 should be a diversity of all homes so everyone can enjoy River Terrace 2's amenities. I think the council should strongly consider having 1 home per acre zoning along Vandermost and let River Terrace 2 offer another option such as custom homes. In changing the zoning, the Oregon State Fire Code is met. The land has more opportunity to be developed. People have a chance to sell and not pay the higher tax. And no one has to come up with 50 million.
Andrea,
Over?
2 minutes up.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry for going too long.
Yeah, it's fine. Yeah, go ahead. All right, the next one is Lily Stone. Hi, Lily. Yeah, you have 2 minutes once you turn on the microphone. Nope. There we go.
Perfect. Thank you. Good evening, Mayor Hu and members of council. My name is Lily Stone, and I live on Vandermost Road. I support River Terrace 2.0's housing goals, and I'd like to thank Brittany for her engagement with my questions on the development. I'm not here to oppose the plan. I'm here about one disconnected pocket of it. Vandermost Road is a dead end. It's cut off from the rest of River Terrace 2.0, and that road runs alongside a ravine, a creek, a riparian habitat, plus generational farms, and a working winery that are all very established. Only 3 parcels on the road fall in the River Terrace 2.0 plan boundary. An Oregon Fire Code already caps access to roughly 30 homes. All 3 parcels contain significant natural resources that are likely unbuildable. One landowner has stated they don't plan to sell, shrinking the realistic development footprint even further. The current draft still zones this pocket at 10 units per acre on 4,000 to 5,000 square foot lots, the same as areas with none of these constraints. I'm asking council to direct staff to set a baseline of 1 home per acre for these 3 parcels, as the zoning itself, not a discretionary exception. I'm also curious that since River Terrace 2.0's density targets is a plan-wide average, would zoning this small, already constrained pocket at 1 unit per acre require adding density elsewhere to stay compliant, or is there already room in the plan to absorb it? I fully understand the desire to create a diverse housing environment, and I do think that this would add to the housing variety that you are contemplating offering while planning for something that makes sense, given the significant natural resources and the constraints on this road. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Lily. Next on the list is Yusuf Alizi. Hi, Yusuf.
Thank you, Tigard City Council, for the opportunity to speak. On Sunday, 3 Tigard residents went to work and never came home. I do not share this lightly. I share it with great fear and concern. This is not an isolated incident, as more folks in Tigard are being abducted by ICE. During the May 18th, 2026 Budget Committee hearing, the council sent $2,714,000 tax dollars from the Parks bond and allocated it to the, quote, Parks Utility Fund to shore up a projected operations shortfall, unquote. This despite a general fund deficit of $6 million that were used to justify cuts to the library. Those Tigard tax dollars were available to spend at the council's discretion. A one-time stopgap that cannot be repeated next year. Clean and well-staffed parks are important to the community, but our people's safety, I would argue, is even more important. The Portland Immigration Rights Commission has reported an increasing number of ICE abductions in Tigard. Their operations are surging. Part of the community safety response on the Tigard City website says, in reference to immigration issues, quote, if you need help, call us, end quote. Well, these families need help, and I'm here calling you. Some of that extra funding could be helping the families who are being hunted, kidnapped, and deported simply because of their immigration status. These are mothers, fathers, workers, taxpayers, and entrepreneurs who have contributed no small part to our funds. These abductions leave behind kids without parents, families that are without food. I ask the council to please consider all of Tigard when you're making these budgeting decisions. I ask the council to consider the clear threat to our neighbors. Please allocate funds to help our people. Thank you.
Thank you, Yusuf. Next person will be Lisa Gates Munchler. Yeah, hello, Lisa. I know who you are.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak. It's good to see all of you. I am a River Terrace 1.0 resident and also a member of the River Terrace 2.0 Community Advisory Committee. We have our last and our final meeting at the end of this month, so looking forward to learning more about the decisions that have been made and everything that we worked on. Tonight, I was aware that the SDCs are being discussed. And I'm going to preface this by saying, like the vast majority of Tigard residents, I'm not an urban planning professional. But this does matter to me, and I think it matters to Tigard because of how it affects housing affordability, which is such a crucial issue. So I appreciate that the city is looking at ways to reduce the cost of building smaller homes and middle housing, but I want to make sure that we keep the ultimate goal in focus. We are not planning River Terrace 2.0 to make housing development more profitable. We are planning it to make housing more attainable for people who live here. The presentation that's going to be shown later, mentions that many people were priced out of River Terrace 1.0 and that Tigard does not have enough starter homes or affordable options. I think that needs to be the standard we use to evaluate these policies. If the city reduces an SDC or otherwise lowers a developer's cost, I would like to know what mechanism ensures that that savings actually translates into a lower price for the person buying or renting the home, or ensures that homes that people need are going to become available when they otherwise wouldn't, like smaller homes or different types of housing. I'm not opposed to development being financially feasible. Developers obviously need to make a reasonable return, but financial feasibility should not become a euphemism for maximizing profitability at the expense of affordability. And I know that I'm almost out of time, but as I've said here before, River Terrace is an incredible once-in-a-generation opportunity, and we cannot squander it. So I just would urge you to keep that in focus. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Lisa. Next person is Ron Layton. Hi, Ron. The mic is on already, so yeah.
Coincidence on the topic today. I'm here about similar concerns to some of the previous speakers, but why it takes so long and so expensive to get a single permit for a single structure in an existing neighborhood. And I've been trying since March to get a single permit for a single structure in residential, existing residential, middle housing, and as of today, I still don't have a permit. I think there, under the Oregon code, it says about middle housing is to kind of remove barriers and costs and maybe get a little bit expedited kind of review process. And this is neither. In fact, is the exact opposite. The cost the city is going to be imposing on this single structure is $200,000 before you even build, before there any lumber. And I don't see how that's going to be affordable to anybody to be able to live if you have to build and try to recover those costs. It's a single structure, single tax lot, single meter, single sewer, single foundation, single roof. And the charges are just off the chart to me. They're charging for 2 permit reviews to review the exact same set of plans that they told me you need to submit the exact same set of plans so they can review it twice, and they're charging me twice. And it's the exact same set of plans. So those kind of fees just escalate. It's hard to, I saw on the agenda you guys are going to be discussing tiered SDCs, which might be good, I think. I just hope that somehow this can be reflected back on trying to build something that's existing. This isn't this monstrosity thing. There's no way to recover that kind of money. And I still don't have a permit. This building should be done and people should be living there. And they're not. I still don't know when. It's kind of frustrating. Thank you.
Thank you, Ron. Since we are already out of time, but since Roger and Mary Potoff signed up, is there any way you can consolidate your comments into 1-2 minutes?
After 11 years, I can't have 2 minutes. 11 years that I have brought this issue before the council, and it's ongoing tonight with respect to rabies that have been passed on by goats, and I'm living next door to 5 goats, 5 sheep.
All right, Roger.
Oh, no, wait, just a second.
No, can you?
5 years, and you can't give me 2 minutes?
No, I say I can give you 2 minutes.
Okay, great.
I say, that's why I say, yeah.
And I want to speak as well.
Okay.
We can't consolidate.
Okay, all right. All right.
This is evidence of the goats.
Can you talk into the mic? And you have 2 minutes.
This is evidence of the goats at 11650 Southwest Ann Street. These photos are current as of today in some cases, and they go back as far as 2022. Now, further to that, Mayor Hu, at one of the meetups, I told you, or my wife told you, that there was manure piles that were 6 feet high. This is the photographic evidence of that. And last night on the news and today on the national news, this zoological transmission is happening from animals. Skunks bite the goats get rabies, and just by petting goats. Because in North Carolina, there was a petting zoo that people were pet and they tested positive, and now we have small children and elderly people, grandparents who take their kids to these mobile petting zoos, and they're having to go through the rabies shot protocol. Painful. Why are we doing this? And tonight, Jason Snyder is here. He was at the helm when the council rid itself of all of the regulations regarding urban livestock. They said, no, we can rely on the nuisance code. This is evidence that the nuisance code cannot be the solution. I have had neighbors call. In fact, Ken Ross, the code enforcement officer, He filed a complaint against us with all of the things that I had alleged and proven, and he and the neighbor called said, none of those things exist at Pothouse property. He said, yeah, I know, but I have a file 6 inches thick, and I felt he ought to feel the weight of the city land on him.
Okay.
Well, I have broad shoulders, and I will not take it. I've been here for 27 years in
All
the
right,
same
thank you.
house. Thank you.
Thank you. Mary? Hello, Mary.
Hi. You know, this has been going on for 15 years. It was little by little, day by day, year by year. This is not normal. It's not normal. And let me tell you one other thing. The cacophony of all those animals out there. The chickens, they don't cluck, they cackle. They're laying their eggs. There's 40 of them out there. So it's not all in unison. It's one after the other, after the other, after the other. The sheep, the goats, they bleat, they baa all day long. And guess what? In the morning too. Crack of dawn. It's not normal. There's an urban growth boundary. Why can this happen in a residential area when 5 miles away you could go and have a farm? And to Roger's point, the health issues. Come on. Something has to be done. This cannot go on. It's insanity. What is going on is not normal. Could we get some agreement on that? Could we, City Council? Humbly ask.
This is not a dialogue. We will respond to you. The city or I will respond to you. So thank you, and Roger, for bringing this to our attention.
You're welcome.
Thank you. All right. So, Mr. Van, are there any callers in the queue for phone or video testimony?
We have one person signed up for a video testimony. His name is Jeff Buis.
All right. Good evening, Jeff. Please state your name, and you have 2 minutes.
Good evening. I have some dogs in the background, and I apologize to the last 2 speakers for that noise. My name is Jeff Weiss. I'm the owner of the property at 16245 Southwest Beef Bend Road. I submitted a formal letter for the public record on Wednesday, but I want to briefly clarify my position tonight. I want to be entirely clear. I am a willing partner in the River Terrace 2.0 plan. I recognize the environmental and geographic hurdles to the south require River Terrace Boulevard to traverse the interior of my property. Because the physical design bisects my land, my letter simply asks the city to secure the financial protections and fair compensation to preserve the underlying value of the tract. I look forward to partnering with the city on this project, and I appreciate your time tonight. Thank you, Mayor and the City Council members.
Thank you, Jeff, for your public testimony. All right, let's move on to our city manager report, and City Manager Rager will give a brief report. Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. As we head into September, we have 2 month-long observances that offer some great opportunities for our community to learn, connect, and take advantage of local resources. We've got National Preparedness Month and Library Card Sign-Up Month. National Preparedness Month is a good reminder that being prepared doesn't have to be complicated. In Tigard, our Community Emergency Response Team, or CERT, helps residents learn practical skills and ways to prepare for emergencies, from building an emergency kit and creating a family communication plan to learn how neighbors can work together when professional responders may be overwhelmed. The city's website has resources to help residents get started and learn more about emergency preparedness. Taking a few simple steps now can make a big difference in helping our families and our community feel more confident and ready when an emergency happens. September is also Library Card Sign-Up Month, and it's a great time to remind our community about all the library has to offer. This summer alone, over 3,400 people have participated in the Tigard Public Library's summer reading program, showing just how much our community values opportunities to read, learn, and connect. And the value of a Tigard Library Card really adds up. In 2025, the estimated value of what a card holder could access was just over $500. A library card opens the door to books and other materials, digital resources, technology, programs, and opportunities for people of all ages. Whether you're looking for something to read, a program for your kids, help with technology, or simply a welcoming place to spend some time, we encourage everyone to stop by and discover all that the library has to offer. That's my report. Thank you.
Thank you, City Manager Rager. Any questions or comments? Okay. Well, to those who presented comments about the River Terrace 2.0, I'm sure you know that we will discuss that later on, so I encourage you to stay and listen to staff perhaps respond to some of your questions or comments. All right, so let's move on to next is the consent agenda. The consent agenda is used for routine items, including approval of meeting minutes, contracts, and intergovernmental agreements. Information on each item is available on the city's website in the packet for this meeting. These items may be enacted in one motion without separate discussion. Council members may request that an item be removed by motion for discussion and separate action. Tonight, we have an updated IGA with Clean Water Services and a contract amendment for pavement management program slurry and crack seal services. So we have staff and partners here to answer any question if you have any. Otherwise, I will entertain a motion.
Mayor, I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
A second.
Thank you. The motion has been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed say nay. The consent agenda is adopted by a unanimous vote of the council. All right, so next move on to our next item, which is update from Washington County Sheriff's Office. And we have Under Sheriff Koch and Chief Deputy McCrea to provide the update. And there's a slide. Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. Thank you for allowing us to come and present.
Your mic. Yo, Mike. There you go.
Thank you. Good evening. Thank you for allowing us to come and present this evening. Sheriff Massey wishes she could be here, but she had some other obligations. So you have myself, John Cook, the Undersheriff, and Chief Deputy Errol McCrae here. Next slide, please. We're going to go over some of the services that we provide here in Washington County and give you our annual update. We're all familiar with the map of Washington County. We have a mix of rural, urban, and urban unincorporated areas. We at the Sheriff's Office serve you no matter where you live. And none of us can do it alone. We'll talk a little bit about how our key partnerships with teams like Bob Rogers and the Tigard Police Department really are essential to maintain safe and livable communities here across Washington County. And it allows us to maintain our goal of being the safest major urban county in Oregon and in the region. Next slide, please. When we look at public safety, it's not just about law enforcement. It takes all of us working together. Our community members, strong businesses, strong schools, strong libraries and parks, all of those combined really help us keep those livable, safe communities. But really that public safety component between our city police departments like Tigard and the Sheriff's Office and some of our contract services are really essential to make sure that we're able to respond to community members in need and provide them the services that are essential. For the Sheriff's Office, we also provide an overlay of county-wide public safety services. We'll talk a little bit more about the jail here shortly, but some of the other teams that we provide, search and rescue, are not only in the rural areas, but also in the urban areas. are really essential to provide that overlay of public safety across all of Washington County. Next slide, please. Some of the coordination provided by the Sheriff's Office on some of those interagency teams is essential. None of us can do it by ourselves. By partnering with our city partners like Tigard and Beaverton and the Sheriff's Office, we're able to provide professional county-wide service no matter where you live. As we know with our boundaries, as we're looking at that previous map, we're also intertwined. Whether it's our tactical teams or some of our mental health response teams that we'll talk about a little bit later on, it really provides us the opportunity to maintain professional services across all of the public safety community. For the Sheriff's Office specifically, we provide some additional services. We have our training facility that we partner with some of our city municipalities to come and utilize to make sure that we're able to maintain high level of training across all the county. But there's also some tools and technology that we leverage. For example, the Sheriff's Office has developed a program called PS Web, the Public Safety Web. It's provided to all of our police departments and sheriff's deputies out there in the field, so they can have real-time access on their phones to certain information when it comes to calls for service and other safety information. Investing in a lot of that technology, pooling our resources, really allow us to maintain that flexible service across all of Washington County as we're moving in and out of the different jurisdictions. Next slide, please. Turn it over to you.
I'm going to talk a little bit about our specialty teams that we have here in Washington County. Washington County benefits from a wide range of specialty teams designed to respond to incidents requiring additional expertise. These teams train year-round to ensure Washington County is prepared for complex incidents when it happens. Our crisis negotiation team recently earned first place at the Western States Hostage Negotiation Association Conference. This is a multi-agency team representing Washington County, including the Sheriff's Office, deputies from our patrol and jail divisions, and officers from our partner agencies, and one retired FBI agent. They specialize in de-escalating high-risk, volatile situations. They traveled to Spokane, Washington for this conference and regional competition, where they competed against top negotiation teams across the Western United States. They reinforced the best practices and advanced skills through real-world scenarios. They demonstrated excellence under pressure and earned top awards for that. Next slide, please. These teams train year-round to ensure Washington County is prepared for complex incidents. For example, our tactical team is celebrating 50 years of service this year. They adapt to evolving community needs. Public safety has relied on them for the last decade. These teams wouldn't be successful without continuing evolving and changing to embrace technology. Next slide, please. Our Crash Analysis Reconstruction Team, or CART. They investigate serious crash accidents that require specialty expertise. These investigators provide detailed reconstruction, analysis, and support investigations to ensure accurate information is available through courts and the family. This team is made up of the Washington County Sheriff's Office, Tualatin, Beaverton, Hillsborough, Forest Grove, Tigard, and King City. Next slide, please. Our Mental Health Response Team, or MHRT. This team is a full-time and part-time members. Many of the calls for service involve individuals experiencing mental crisis. The Mental Health Response Team ensure those situations are handled with appropriate expertise and compassion, providing the backbone for training for all critical crisis intervention and de-escalation for all law enforcement agencies in the county. Next slide, please. Our Mobile Field Force Response Team. This team ensures safety for the community members, demonstrators, and officers at large-scale events. They support the ability for individuals to peacefully protest or assemble and express their views. They provide training for personnel and structured response, manage complex and rapid evolving incidents. While Washington County has not experienced the level of protest activity as some of our neighboring areas, preparation is critical. Regular training ensures that large-scale incidents occur. We are prepared to respond safely and professionally. The Mobile Field Force is designed to respond when large-scale public events and demonstrations require additional coordination and resources. The Mobile Field Force was established in the 1990s and continued to evolve over time to best meet the needs of the community, public expectations, case law, and best practices. Back over to you.
Yep, thank you. Next slide, please. We're going to talk about a little bit of technology and then talk about the jail. Our community has expectations that we utilize technology that is out there. A lot of the technology can be very divisive in certain areas, so we want to make sure as we lead into some of these spaces, we're doing so with intentionally and having those conversations with our different community partners. The Sheriff's Office has expanded body-worn cameras throughout our organization, as most of our police departments have throughout Washington County. We've also moved those into the jail. That allows a level of transparency, not only for our deputies and police officers, but also for the community to see what's going on. A couple of the key pieces I'm going to touch on. The first one is really the drones as the first responder. This is emerging technology that is really transitioning the way that we perform our job out in the community. We are piloting a program right now for the Sheriff's Office that we're looking to explore more county-wide and more regionally on having drones stationed in different areas and being able to respond to violent crimes. These are not devices, we spoke with the council about this, I believe, last year. They're not out there surveilling people. They are responding to 911 calls and most often beating our deputies and police officers to those calls. And when we have crimes like robberies in progress and thefts, to be able to have that technology to assist our police officers and deputies on the ground, let them slow down, keep the community safe, that technology is very essential. We are working with the Board of County Commissioners on securing funding to continue to explore and expand our program here in the coming months and into next fiscal year. Some of the other technology that's emerging is AI for report writing. The Sheriff's Office has been working with the Washington County District Attorney's Office to explore AI in our report writing, utilizing our body cameras to have a more detailed and expansive reports, make sure that they're more accurate. The software that we're currently utilizing has a lot of built-in safety precautions to ensure that the deputies or police officers utilizing that technology have to review the reports for accuracy and make sure that is what they saw out at the scene before they turn those in. But what we are seeing is we're seeing a decrease in the amount of time it takes our deputies to write those reports, increasing their efficiency and allowing them to be back on the street patrolling and serving our community. Next slide, please. Talk a little bit about the jail. I know we've talked about this for several years, as we have not had a fully functioning jail since 2020. As you all know, during COVID, we had to shut down several of our housing units. We then ran into a staffing issue and kept those housing units closed. Since that time, we were running into other staffing issues and facilities issues that we were allowed to utilize those 2 down pods to do a refresh on our jail. We've completed that construction, and the jail is now fully opened. That is essential. Having a healthy jail is part of the criminal justice system. It's just as important as having our police officers and deputies on the street, having our district attorney's office staffed, and being able to have that whole system work seamlessly. Next slide, please. Our jail is not just about housing people. Our goal is to get people out of jail. It's to keep the correct people in there and make sure that the community members that are in there are able to successfully transition back into the community. That's through training and education of those adults in custody. We also have improved a lot of safety precautions as we've done the upfits with some suicide prevention jump barriers in the jail. And there's some other emerging technology like electronic home detention. We've expanded that program, so as community members do return to the different neighborhoods, if we need to have them monitored through the court system, we're able to do that. Our jail is over 28 years old. As the county looks out for the next 25 to 30 years, we are looking at a jail expansion project. We're working with the Board of County Commissioners and a lot of our key stakeholders, including members of the Taggart Police Department and other police departments and other jurisdictions to provide us information as to what that jail of the future should look like. It will look markedly different than today, having a more trauma-informed space, being able to treat people with substance abuse and mental health issues. Next slide, please. I think the last time the sheriff and I gave our update last year, we were asking for your support with our public safety local option levy. That was successful in passing last year, and that was really due to the partnerships. With all of us working together countywide, we're able to provide that strong service, whether it's the jail, our mental health response teams, the district attorney's office, our juvenile department, but it just provides a lot of those key essential services across all of Washington County. So we thank you all for your support on that last year. Next slide, please. And just in closing, wherever you live in Washington County, we serve you with the Sheriff's Office. We work in partnership with the Tigard Police Department and all of our other partners so we can pool our resources and provide a professional service across all of the communities in Washington County. And none of us can do it by ourselves. We need all of those partnerships. So we thank you for that support and those endeavors. Try to keep it short. I know you have a busy agenda, so we will go to the next slide, which is conclusion. And if you all have any questions, we just want to thank you, but we're here to answer any questions.
Thank you. Councilor, do you have any questions? Yes, Councilor Shaw.
I had the opportunity to participate in Leadership Tigard with the Chamber of Commerce, and for those in the community who are watching and perhaps those in the audience, it's a terrific program where you get the opportunity to go visit different facilities, and one of them being, of course, the jail. So I just want to thank your staff for allowing us to see just how informed that the sheriffs were, but also in the different pods, and commend you on the work that's being done, particularly around mental health and then detox and destabilization. So I just wanted to provide a shout out. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
Council President Wolf.
Thank you so much, and ditto to Councilor Shaw and the work that you do. And I think just as a follow-up, going back to the leveraging technology slide, you heard public comment earlier, and just the anxiety, the concern about many of our local community members. How do you ensure, as we leverage technology in so many ways that really helps move the work forward, but has the concern of the risk of information being shared that puts community members at risk? I just thought I'd ask if you wanted to address that and what you're trying to do to ensure the best that we can, the safety of those that are in our communities.
Yeah, no, thank you, Councilor.
Thank you.
And that is a concern of ours as well. And so we want to make sure any technology that we implement is transparent. We work with our community, any community partner that wants to come in. We're happy to share policies, talk about, we have several safeguards in that technology that we do not share those with, let's say, federal agencies or outside sources outside of our local public safety system. We make sure that we have good, strong internal policies to make sure that our staff are aware of what they are able to do and what they can and can't do with that technology. And then we also have oversight and accountability to make sure that we're reviewing those policies and procedures and reviewing those different videos to make sure that all of our staff are appropriately utilizing that. And by utilizing transparent policies, solid accountability, working with our community partners, we're able to make sure that we're able to utilize that technology in a safe way, that we maintain the security of that internally and are still able to provide that service to the community.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Council President Wolf, for raising that, because I talk with a lot of immigrant and underrepresented group, and that's, we need to build trust, right? And one thing about AI, assisted report writing, I'm no way expert AI. I mean, Councilor Kudus, you probably know more about that. It's just, I heard a lot about, AI bias, right? So when I don't need answer right now, but just want to flag that for you, that when AI could introduce bias and unintentionally. So, and one last thing, how will the public learn more about the difficulty or the challenges we are facing with the jail capacity? Is that on the website right now? Or?
Yes, there is a website, and I can make sure we share it with you all. We are putting out regular updates to a lot of our key stakeholders. This is going to be a multi-year-long project, and as we've had a couple community listening sessions. As we continue to proceed in that project, we'll make sure that the community has access to be able to see each step of the way where we're going to. We're currently out going to start looking at other jails to make sure not only are we looking for best practices, we want to set the best practices. We want to make sure that our jail is really the gold standard for how we should be serving the community.
Yeah, thank you. Any last question or comments? Well, seeing none, thank you so much for your report and everything you do. We appreciate your partnership.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.
Have a good evening.
All right, so next item on our agenda is checking with Commissioner Snyder. And he will be joined by Director of Housing Services Rogers. Good evening, both.
Thank you for having us.
Oh, the mic is not on. There we go.
They've changed the colors. Thank you, City Council, for having us. My name is Jason Snyder, County Commissioner for District 3, which includes Tigard and most of the southeast part of the county. I have a guest with me based on the topics that you all want to discuss. We received bunch of questions, and so we're prepared to respond to the questions that you would put together. I will introduce Molly Rogers, our Director of Housing at Washington County, and she is going to start.
Great. Good evening, Mayor Hu and councilors. For the record, my name is Molly Rogers, and I'm the Director of Housing Services. I'm here to just provide a little bit of context, and then we will move directly to your questions. So we appreciate you sharing those with us in advance. Next slide. Great. You may recall this slide from the last time we were here, but I think it bears some repeating. This slide really showcases our work as both a housing authority and a Department of Housing Services in our collective efforts to create pathways out of homelessness and investing in affordable homes that have resulted in tremendous and lasting impact for thousands of members of our community. Over 20,000 members, in fact, last year. It also demonstrates our rapid growth in building out an infrastructure in Washington County to be responsive to our homeless and housing crises. With 26 new places for people to live or to go temporarily if they don't have a home, ranging from pod villages to transitional housing, to motel conversions, to permanent supportive housing sprinkled throughout the county. We know that every person's journey to stable housing is different, and the work that we do as a department is to help facilitate a balanced system of care that is responsive, coordinated, dynamic, yet efficient in ending and preventing homelessness. Next slide. Over the past 5 years, we've built a homeless system of care virtually from scratch, where we now can provide shelter and housing options for thousands of households each year. With our 13 homeless services facilities, either opened or underway across the county, we are really starting to see the results. So I'd like to just point out a few of these. Thousands of evictions are being prevented, which is really the most cost-effective and most humane way to address our crisis. We know that as focusing on our chronically homeless individuals, that those counts are now going down too. We're reducing our unsheltered point-in-time count between 2021 and 2025. And between our permanent supportive housing vouchers and our rapid rehousing program, we've also ended housing stability for 3,000 households in the first 5 years of the SHS program. Next slide. I think one of your questions is understanding the budget that we maintain for ending homelessness and preventing homelessness. Our system comes from all levels of government, federal, state, regional, and local. As you can surmise by these numbers, the vast majority is coming from the supportive housing services measure, as it represents 88% of our total budget. I just want to point out clarification that we budget SHS on 2 different line items. One is meant to capture our baseline ongoing operations of the system of close to $95 million from what we call SHS fund balance. The SHS fund balance is generally used for capital projects or other one-time only uses, and the amount we budget each year is tied to the activities or projects we expect to expend those funds in that particular fiscal year. So one measure, go ahead. One measure we do track closely is the 5-year rolling SHS forecast managed by Metro's economist. I just wanted to, one question I think you guys were asking were about trend lines. Just happy to note for you all, we do track very closely. They do update that at least annually. The latest SHS revenue forecast from Metro estimated that they expect us to receive slight decreases in SHS for fiscal years 27 and 28, followed by 2 years of increases for fiscal years 29, 30. So this volatility in the income revenue for SHS has forced us to really budget differently, away from forecast and more towards a continuing service model level.
I want to bring an emphasis here on just how dependent our region and our county are on the SHS funding. It's not only the money that you see there, but it's often used to be matching to get state and federal funding that is also listed up there. So you remove the local funding that can be used as a match, and it's even potentially more devastating if we are not able to continue the SHS program over the longer term.
Go ahead. Just because we're on this slide, I just wanted to follow up for clarification. So I totally understand the difference between the fund balance 53 used for capital and then the operations around the 94. But is all those dollars generated from the annual income taxes as opposed to the bonds, right? And so I just wanted to get that clarification because I think the capital bond dollars are essentially gone. So that's still all generated annually.
That is a great clarification, Counselor. Bond dollars are typically used for capital, and those were dedicated to affordable housing projects only. SHS, because we had virtually not that many facilities here in Washington County, the first few years of our program, we had to spend more of our resources towards building that infrastructure towards, this is SHS to capital of homeless facilities.
Thank you.
The next slide. This pie chart depicts where those funds are going by program type. And the vast majority of these funds, you can see close to 80%, is dedicated to housing assistance. We're very proud of this in Washington County. The second largest program type is safety off the streets, because we know how important it is for the livability of cities to ensure we can offer an immediate place for people to go when they are experiencing a crisis right there in our communities. Washington County can pivot and we can shift across our different program areas if we're noticing that either people are getting stuck into one intervention over another, or if we know that one program is more cost-effective than another. Next slide.
Can I ask a question? My understanding is that the City of Tiger, Sherwood, and Tualatin share 2-3 outreach team members. And I heard that, it just sounds to me like that seems like a lot of work for 2 people. So how do you reach that 2 people number for outreach team for our region?
I believe I would have to defer to Megan Cohen on that
Okay.
specific question. We do rely on your homeless liaison that you have, that you
Okay.
share, to help us set and calibrate the right
Okay,
number
yeah,
of
we can-
outreach folks. I
can follow up
I do
offline.
know you're one of 6 outreach programs. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
So this map is a mix of open and planned housing programs across Washington County that have received funding from the Department of Housing Services for development costs, either renovations or building, and/or operating costs. So I'm going to cover the different sections. Access centers are things like Just Compassion's Resource Center, which is our only complete access center. However, we have day centers providing a similar resource currently operating in both Hillsborough and Cornelius as well. Shelters, currently 400-plus units of shelter are open countywide. The goal is to provide over 500 units of shelter by the fiscal year end that we're in now. Transitional housing on this map fills the gap in our system for people who need longer lead time before transitioning into housing, and that frees up shelter capacity and gives people access to wraparound supports to address behavioral health needs. Regional affordable housing bond, listed here on the map, is continued to build out the Metro Affordable Housing Bond. Permanent supportive housing is housing models specifically designed to meet housing needs for people exiting homelessness. There's some examples. Heartwood Commons, the Forest Grove Permanent Supportive Housing Shelter is underway. And then county-owned affordable housing is a portfolio that the county maintains as affordable. Affordable housing and public housing here is not pictured on the map, on the graph. Next slide.
It's okay. I think one of your questions was really understanding the impact to Tigard of our system. You guys have Tigard has stepped up in many ways along with other cities and communities. Specifically, we know Tigard is the location of the first access center, like Commissioner Siner mentioned, and we have 3 additional locations underway. You have one of the 3 Project Turnkey hotel conversions that we did. We have you guys opened a 1 year-round adult-only shelter in Washington County out of the 4 total that will be built or are built. We have one of our 3 city liaisons that we fund with other 2 cities being Hillsborough and Beaverton. And you have one of 6 outreach workers. So Mayor Wu will get more information on how that's staffed.
Go ahead, Councilor Shaw.
Thank you. Since we're on this slide, you mentioned that there are 3 additional locations underway. Where would those be?
Maybe we go back to the map.
Because I didn't see.
Oh, the shelters, yeah. One is in Beaverton, one is in Hillsborough, and I now have to.
So they're not in Tigard specific. We have
no.
the one. Okay, I just want, since it's Tigard specific
countywide number.
programs. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, we are, as you can see, we're trying to do our best to disperse as much as we can geographically. And I also, on this short notice, we weren't able to delineate a very specific percentage, and a lot of the work we do is actually tied to a tenant has a choice in renting an apartment using a voucher, for example. So it'd be hard to really delineate between those locations in Tigard across other cities, but when we look at sort of roughly where we're putting all of these facilities, it does feel proportional at this time when you take into account the projects that we're going to build out. Next slide. Did want to showcase some of the ones that are coming up very soon. This is a great summary of the number of projects, the type of projects, which communities their projects are going into over the next 6 months. Next slide, we'll go into a few of these. Shout out. The most immediate opening is what we call our Next Step community coming this fall. It was formerly called the Central County Safe Trust Village. It's located in unincorporated Aloha, not too far from Reed's Crossing. It will offer 60 pods and replace the capacity that we supported at a church parking lot in Aloha and another village we have in Cornelius that is in the process of closing down. That site will be then converted, repurposed into an access center. Next slide. We also have 2 transitional housing projects that are underway. And these are actually going to be the first 2 transitional housing projects funded by the Supportive Housing Services measure. Cornell Road will be recovery focused and will offer a sober living environment. Transcending Hope is located in Hillsborough. Will be focused on those who need wraparound services to address behavioral service needs. Next slide. Well, Tigard is the location for our first access center, which also serves as part of inclement weather response. 2 more are scheduled to open up sometime in 2027, one in Hillsborough, the other in Western Washington County in Cornelius. Next slide. Our 4th access center is out for bid at this very moment. In fact, we issued a $5 million notice of funding availability for providers to propose locations and programming to serve the Beaverton area as its 4th access center. We're working closely right now with the City of Beaverton staff, especially their homeless liaison, to understand their guidelines for this selection. So we hope to announce an award later this fall. Next slide. Our second 100% permanent supportive housing project for chronically homeless individuals after the Heartwood Commons will be in Forest Grove. So I'm excited to share with you that the Housing Authority was awarded its first ever what we call 9% low-income housing tax credit. It's a very competitive award to help finance this project from the state of Oregon. So we hope to break ground by the end of 2027. Next slide. I think there was a question from you around what's our role in providing accountability for providers to be good neighbors. Really, really important that we do engage with communities to establish what we call good neighbor agreements. And I want to just share with you a little bit that these G&As are a required part of a provider's operating contract. We know that your particular interest may be in Just Compassion Resource Center and that Good Neighbor Agreement. They actually have it on their website. There's a direct link here on this slide. And there's contact information if anyone needs to submit more information on that Good Neighbor Agreement. One thing that separates the Just Compassion location from our other shelters is that it also operates as an access center, so that is unique. It can present some other challenges as people do flow into the access center and may not have their housing situation immediately resolved. We do have critical incident reports that are required by our shelter providers when certain thresholds are met, such as property damage, first responders, behavioral concerns, etc. And through these incident reports, we are able to identify if providers are breaking any policies and support ways of minimally impacting participants and neighbors. Then we go through a grievance process, and these policies are required by our shelter providers, and they must be submitted to the county once a grievance is addressed. And we do look at every single grievance that comes to us within 10 days. If an individual feels like their grievance has not been addressed, they also can file a grievance. So you can apply for a grievance directly with Just Compassion. You can also file one directly to your city liaison, or you can apply directly to Washington County through our website. So we do also incorporate performance metrics in our shelter provider contracts with clear expectations of the goals they must meet. This includes such things as occupancy rates, making sure they're successfully moving people into permanent housing, and ensuring that participants are connected to appropriate services. It serves as accountability measure as we track successful participant flow and program functionality. Everyone has to enter their data into our homeless management information system. When participants are actively working on and meeting goals, there's less likelihood that issues on site will happen. Washington County program staff, they do meet with service providers each month, and we hold them accountable to performance metrics. In addition, our staff complete on-site visits to shelter and access centers, as well as we do random site visits to ensure compliance. We have heard from the Metropolitan Mayors Consortium and at the Metro Regional Policy and Oversight Committee that cities are feeling like they're having to bear many of the burdens of the unsheltered homelessness in our communities, and we need to build a system that cities have access to. In these slides to come, we'll be highlighting some of the ways we partner with you all, but also know that this is an open conversation and we welcome suggestions and feedback about how we can further our partnership. Now back to you, Commissioner.
Thank you. So there was also a question that you all had about what the county's plans long-term would be for supporting existing shelter and resources if
Next slide.
SHS funding were not to be renewed.
Oh, the next slide, please.
Next slide. As you can see from the previous slides, the infrastructure and system of care we've built thanks to the infusion of SHS resources is really impressive. But it is also important to note that it would be gutted without advancing a future SHS measure and continuing that. When we built the system, service providers, counties, and cities had been navigating decades of disinvestment, and certainly we are capable of being scrappy and creative with limited funding, but the impact cannot be understated for the vulnerable community members we serve and the impact it would have on unsheltered homelessness in our communities. I want to point you to one number on this slide, and that is that the average participant's monthly income in our long-term rental assistance program is $987 a month. Next slide, please. Also, some questions about our legislative efforts at the county to support around housing and houselessness. One update I have for you is that I am now going to be the lead for Washington County on RPOC with Metro. We have Commissioner Willie stepping back from that for a couple different reasons, including just his travel schedule the next couple months and then his departure from the commission. So the 2027 legislative agenda for the County Board of Commissioners has not yet been set. Our housing priorities continue to be keeping service levels from Governor Kotek's shelter system across the state, mitigating federal disinvestment in eviction prevention and emergency housing voucher holders, and then the SHS renewal being a linchpin for all of our funding sources to be leveraged and maximized. Formerly homeless households remain in housing is what we're really trying to do there. We also have an exciting opportunity for you to join us at our housing forum that we have annually, and that this year is on November 6th. And with that, I think I'm back to Molly.
Yeah, next slide, please. So we partner with City of Tigard in many ways. We're always interested in learning how we could be a better partner. We greatly appreciate our collaboration with your city liaison in addressing all kinds of grievances or doing handoffs between partners, or make sure we have policy alignment plus such as our time, place, and manner policy across the county. We also collaborate with your first responders, as you heard just now from the Sheriff's Office, making sure that you have access to emergency beds at our shelters. They're specifically set aside for our first responders to make sure they can connect someone with a safe place to sleep when responding to emergency calls. That has been hugely successful. We appreciate the opportunity to navigate as we navigate all these same challenges together. Next slide. And last slide. So this presentation could not have come at really a better time. We've been in the throes, currently in the planning stages of thinking about some possible ways we could use some one-time only funds that has resulted from either SHS expenses or revenues not matching our budget. So meaning if we get more revenue or we spend less money in any particular fiscal year, it can create a one-time only funding opportunity as we continue to calibrate our growing system and better predict these waves. One concept that staff is bringing to our Solutions Council advisory body is contemplating an offering for cities and other public agencies to better align with our system of care, in addition to other possible concepts like more eviction prevention. We'll, of course, engage with your city liaison on ideas and who can be the conduits for your ideas as well. And then we would need Board of County Commissioner approval before we can move forward. We're hoping to do that in November this year. And with that, we are open to more questions.
Thank you.
Thank you, councilors.
We hope we did a decent job at
Yeah,
answering many of your
it is.
pre-proposed questions, but we
I know.
realize there may be others.
That's why, because you are answering our question, I didn't hold you to our time limit. So, yeah.
Oh, yeah,
any
thank you.
any question, Councilor Shaw?
Thank you both for attending tonight. Really appreciate the update and the answers to our questions. You had mentioned that there's critical incident reports and performance metrics. Are those publicly available? And I should,
I want.
I was curious if they were publicly available.
I would need to talk to our attorney, actually, on that question around how we are maintaining privacy and whether that is, if those are protected. I would assume not, but I would want to confer first.
Specific housing data about individuals is protected generally.
Yeah, I'm not asking specifically just about individuals, but. yeah,
Understood.
Just, yeah. Thank you.
I'm nodding head because I agree with your question. I was like, yeah, I want those performance metrics.
We could certainly help with reports of aggregating certain data or look at trend
Yeah.
lines. We can certainly help better. I think maybe what you're trying to get at is better understanding what the actual experience is that we're seeing.
Exactly. Thank you very much. I appreciate the translation.
Council President Wolf.
I do want to thank you both and the thoroughness and thoughtfulness of the slides and the information that you shared. But I feel like I would be remiss if I didn't take my opportunity just to once again advocate for those opportunities to bring resources locally to Tigard. As I look at my sheriff's report, the total population in Washington County is 614,000, and we are roughly 56,000. And as the only access center, as a city that holds major shelters and supports those individuals as they kind of flex during the day, it has taken quite a bit of resources locally to support those individuals. And I know just compassion is a low bar entry, but sometimes individuals don't meet their expectations and then are out in Tigard trying to figure out what their individual next steps are. And that requires additional resources from our officers, from our public works. And so I just want to advocate for those opportunities to really drive revenue and resources to support local communities that have really stepped up to try to support Washington County's efforts.
And
So
that's a
thank you.
conversation at RPOC right now as well, that the mayors are doing, the representatives of the Mayor's Consortium, I would say, are doing a good job of making the needs clear there. Both
We can be
Mayor
very,
Buck and
yeah,
Mayor Pace.
yeah, we can be very pushy. And I'm glad Metro Councilor Rosenthal is here too. And, we look forward to be good partners. And I'm glad Commissioner Snyder now is taking a more active role in this discussion. So, and I just say I've been really valuing the partnership we have with the county. We talk to other mayors and we know the frustration, mayors in Multnomah County and Clackamas counties are facing. I think Washington County is doing a great job, but, we can always do better, right? So thank you again for both of you for your presentations tonight. I really appreciate it.
Thank you all. Have a great evening.
Thank you. You too. All right, so next item on the agenda is River Terrace 2.0 Finance Strategy and System Development Charge, SDC update. And Senior Planner Gata will provide the staff report. Hello.
Good evening, Tigard City Council. My name is Brittany Gata. I'll be providing the staff presentation on the finance strategy and system development charges. I am joined by Skylar Warren, the Assistant Director of Community Development, and also two members of my consultant team. The first is Becky Hewitt with Echo Northwest, and the second is Deb Gallardi with Gallardi Rothstein Group. All three of those individuals will help me out with questions during our policy discussion period. So the purpose, please go to the next slide. The purpose of today's meeting is to discuss potential SDC policy changes that are related to the city's housing policies, both in relation to River Terrace 2.0 and citywide. Specifically, we'll be asking for housing policy direction on a tiered SDC rate structure and policy discounts, and special considerations for apartments. We'll be pausing during the presentation at each policy direction question for that discussion before I wrap up briefly at the end with next steps. So tonight we're asking for Council's direction at the policy concept level. This will inform preparation of proposed SDC rates specifically. Final direction on this topic will be requested at our next meeting, during which proposed rates will be shared. The follow-up meeting was originally scheduled for October 13th. You'll see references to this in the presentation. Just yesterday, this was rescheduled to November 17th. The reason for this is because of consultant staffing and vacation conflicts, and we needed more time to complete requested council analysis. But November 17th, following up on this topic, is not a delay for the community plan, and it keeps us on our critical path to completing the project. Next slide, please. So both infrastructure planning and housing policy decisions drive SDC rates. So I've provided some examples of how these types of decisions in River Terrace 2.0 have driven our SDCs for supplemental fees, and similar actions citywide have implications on citywide SDC policy. So in River Terrace 2.0, things like identifying the preferred street network, establishing street designs and parks level of service related to infrastructure planning can drive SDCs. Similarly, for housing policy, setting the average housing density, prioritizing certain types of units, in this case, middle housing and smaller units, and also prioritizing undersupplied housing options have an effect as well. Next slide. So before we get into the citywide SDC methodology and policy, I want to review what SDCs are and what their life cycle is. So they are fees that are paid by development based on impacts to city infrastructure. They fund capital projects in our capital improvement plan. And there are 3 stages in the life cycle of an SDC: set, collect, and use. So the majority of the legwork is happening during our set phase. This is when we are doing infrastructure planning, which includes project lists for anticipated needed infrastructure and the costs that go along with that. Then an SDC methodology is established, which identifies how development impacts those infrastructure systems, and it creates a corresponding fee structure. That fee structure includes a maximum allowable SDC rate, and this is the maximum fee that we could charge under state law. It would mean full cost recovery for anticipated infrastructure. But typically, cities don't charge the maximum allowable rate. Instead, cities often offer policy discounts to lower SDC rates based on policy goals. So in our case, we currently have a roughly 15% discount on our citywide parks SDC and a roughly 69% discount on our transportation SDC citywide. Once those policy discounts are applied, then we have our rates. And then we move forward into step 2, where the city collects SDCs, which are paid by developers, and then the city uses them to complete capital improvement plan projects. Next slide, please. So let's talk about our current SDC rate structure. Move to the next slide, please. And we'll see that this graph is illustrating how our current rate structure works. It's using data from our current SDC methodology and our actual rates. There are 2 types of fees, one for single detached homes and one for other residential, which includes middle housing and apartments. The SDC rate is shown in blue, with the top of the blue bar representing the maximum allowable SDC rate that could be charged. But then you see policy discounts, which are in orange. When they're applied to the citywide parks and transportation SDC, we see the rate lowered to the solid blue bar, which is what developers pay. The city's current policy discounts are applied equally to the maximum allowable rates for each housing type. This creates an equity and development feasibility implication, since, as you can see in this graph, the single detached rate is getting a larger dollar amount discount than the other residential. So it's effectively flattening the gap in the rate between the 2 housing types, if you're looking at the solid blue portion of the bar. Next slide, please. City Council also asked that we provide a comparison of our SDCs to our neighboring jurisdictions. And when we made this comparison with Beaverton, Hillsborough, and Sherwood, for both single detached and middle housing rates, we found that Tigard's citywide parks and transportation SDC rates are higher than our neighbors. And this is primarily because Tigard charges a citywide TSDC, the transportation SDC. However, the story becomes more nuanced when you go to the next column for the total difference in SDCs. Our middle housing rates are notably lower, and our single detached rates are on par. We've provided an all-in rate at the far right just for reference at Council's request, which is capturing all development fees. Today, though, we're focusing on the parks and TSDC column, which is in orange, and this is where our policy discussion can have an impact to support housing policy. Next slide. So when we evaluated our current rate structure, we found several issues. The first is that it's based on housing type. And because of changes in state law, housing type is becoming obsolete. Second, it presents a few inequities. The first is that the policy discount is out of alignment with the city's housing goals. And second, because the same fee is applied to one housing type despite the many forms and sizes that it could take. Lastly, we've heard from developers that our current rates are not low enough to support small units because SDCs for those units make up too large of a portion of total development costs. Echo Northwest actually prepared a study on this for the state in 2022. The data from that is broken out on the right, and it's telling you how much of development costs are attributed to SDCs for different types of development. And this is specific to our region. For larger units, SDCs make up a relatively small portion at 5%, making it easier to hit profit margins and therefore making a development feasible. That share increases for middle housing and apartments, meaning that SDCs become an outsized share of the cost and profit margins get tighter. These increases may not seem significant, but even reducing this margin by a few percentage points can tip the scale to make a development feasible. Next slide, please. So in response to those issues, staff and the consultant team are proposing that the city shift to a tiered SDC rate structure. Next slide. In a proposed tiered rate structure by unit size, the rates tier accordingly, and it's not tied to housing type at all. This graph is showing what a tiered structure would look like with SDC rates shown in blue. And you can see that the curve of the bar graph, you see fees increasing as the tiers go up, and these fees are based on impacts to city infrastructure. This type of structure can better support small unit production by lowering fees, and it can also help improve equity outcomes since the scale is based only on impacts. Lastly, a structure tiered by unit size can have some unintended downsides for apartments. We'll be discussing special considerations for those later this evening. Next slide, please. So this chart is a representation of the underlying math that is used to set the tiers based on an impact analysis. It's showing that there's a correlation between unit size, bedroom count, and household size. And as unit size increases, so do the number of bedrooms, and so does the household size. So larger household sizes means more people are using city infrastructure, so more impacts, which leads to a higher fee under the methodology. Next slide, please. So based on that impact data, the rates would be set based on unit size, and then we tested it for development that we would anticipate in River Terrace 2.0. What we found was that it's not fully accomplishing our housing goals, especially for smaller units and middle housing, with the 3 tiers shown in red here seeing shortcomings where either the fee isn't low enough or in some cases it's increasing. So for that reason, the reason for that is that the system is applying the same policy discount method that we use now. So we're still seeing that rates aren't low enough to attract small unit development for smaller homes. And in response to these outcomes, we assessed if there was a better way to apply the policy discount to address this mismatch. So if we go to the next slide, this brings us to the proposed approach, which includes a redistribution of the existing policy discount. Next slide, please. So when we look more closely at how the existing policy discount is allocated to the tiers, or would be, we see that a similar issue arises as we saw with our current structure. So before the discount, at the top of the blue bars, we see a steeper curve of the rates as the unit size increases, but when the orange policy discount is equally applied to the tiers, it flattens the curve of the set rates shown in solid blue, since it's providing a larger discount in dollars to the higher fee for the larger units. So you can see that it reduces the difference between the rates at the top and bottom of the scale. So as a result, we're seeing rates that are still too high for small units. And on the next slide, I'll share an alternative strategy that illustrates how the discount could be redistributed. And as the slide change, please note that there are shifts to the orange policy discount bars in the graph. So next slide. So with the policy discount redistributed to target support for smaller units, you can see that the curve of the rates after the discount is no longer flattened. It maintains the distinction between the top and bottom of the range so that the largest discount in dollars are focused at the smaller end of the range. This has the effect of lowering fees for developers and making smaller units more viable, since SDCs would make up a smaller portion of total development costs. At the same time, though, discounts are still applied to larger units to maintain feasibility. And through this strategy, we're aiming to right-size SDCs compared to development costs. Next slide, please. This slide illustrates how the 3 different SDC structures impact total development costs for 2 different examples, townhouses and a smaller detached home. For townhouses on the left, you can see that SDCs make up a sizable portion of total development costs under our current structure. That actually increases just a little bit by tiering with our existing policy discount. But when the policy discount is redistributed, SDCs shrink as a share of total development costs. Similar for a detached home, you can see that with the three different strategies, SDCs decreases as a share of development costs, with the redistributed discount having the greatest impact. So here we're seeing concretely how lowering SDCs through a budget-neutral redistribution can directly support development feasibility for smaller units and types of middle housing. Next slide, please. Input from our external stakeholders has been key in shaping the analysis in our proposal this evening. From the community, we've heard that there aren't enough starter homes or affordable options in Tigard. We're also hearing a strong desire for cottages and opportunities for seniors to size down. We've heard continuously that many felt priced out of River Terrace 1. From developers at the Developer Forum this past July, we heard that while there's general support for a tiered structure, that support entirely hinges on what the rates are and how they affect development feasibility. We heard that a tiered structure can help smaller units, but that more discounts are needed, and that rates should target what will most likely be built in River Terrace 2.0. We also reached out to other jurisdictions that have tiered SDC models. We learned from them that in their experience, it has helped small unit production, but greenfield areas typically do need more support. They've also shared that, at least based on their models, it has been budget neutral, and they have not experienced a change to their CIP delivery. Next slide, please. Our consultant team of experts in economics and development also provided information in response to Council's request from the August study session. Glardy Rostein Group, who has worked on multiple tiered SDC methodologies, laid out this pros and cons list for us. So for pros, they noted that this type of structure can enhance equity and promote affordability. It's a positive that it's agnostic about housing type, and it also encourages a diversity of housing options. It also reflects local data and can better support city policy and is an emerging best practice. For cons, they do note that it may increase annual revenue variability. It also requires tailoring certain administrative policies considering apartments or home additions, and it also leads to additional costs for larger units typically. And lastly, there is some added complexity for customers. Next slide, please. The council also asked about budget implications of moving to an SDC structure, and the consultant team is currently preparing an in-depth analysis to look closely at this issue. We'll be sharing the results of that at our next meeting on November 17th. Based on the consultant's experience, though, tiered SDCs are typically budget neutral, but it does depend on how the city allocates its policy discounts and on development trends. Lastly, council also asked how the city would transition into a new SDC structure. So first, staff and the consultant team recommend that the new tiered SDC methodology is adopted prior to or alongside the River Terrace 2.0 community plan, and that would use our current infrastructure project lists. Then the city council would set an effective date for those rates that provides ample lead time for our customers. Our consultants recommend at least 6 months, and state law requires 3. In the future, as infrastructure plans and their project lists are updated, the SDC rate would then be updated accordingly using this tiered structure. But we'll be coming back with a specific recommendation for this at our next meeting. So next slide, please. This brings us to the staff and consultant team recommendation. Next slide. So city leadership in finance, public works, and community development, in consultation with our consultant team, recommend that the city tier parks and transportation SDCs by unit size citywide. They also recommend redistributing the existing policy discount to better support housing goals. And lastly, they do not recommend creating any new discounts to citywide SDCs or River Terrace 2.0 supplemental SDCs. This is recommended because it was found to be the best solution to both support our community housing goals and development feasibility in a budget-neutral way with straightforward implementation. It also has the added benefit of counting towards the city's housing production strategy actions. Next slide, please. So this brings us to the first policy direction request and discussion. Does the City Council concur that a tiered SDC rate structure and a redistributed policy discount is aligned with council and community housing goals to prioritize delivery of smaller units and middle housing by lowering fees for developers? And I'd like to take a moment to emphasize that we're not asking for final direction tonight. The input that you provide today will be used to prepare the actual rates, which will be shared at our follow-up meeting when final direction is requested. Thank you.
So, any questions before we start on this? So Councilor Anderson, do you want to start?
Generally, I think it's a good thing. It really depends on whether developers are going to build them. I mean, so, and of course, these 800 square foot units, we just don't see out there. It'd be more of a duplex type of thing, that's part of the missing middle or the middle housing. Because by the time you have siding on every unit and a meter for every unit, it just gets too expensive. It doesn't pencil out. But generally, I'm in favor. I don't have any, I think maybe some tweaks of the actual numbers, but not bad.
Councilor Schlack?
Thank you, Mayor. I'm in agreement with Councilor Anderson. I don't have any comment on the specific numbers. I know those are still getting hashed out, but I support the overall architecture of what you all are proposing, and I think it's a pretty elegant solution to address some of the issues that we're seeing and incentivize the housing types that our community needs. In particular, I'm very passionate about trying to find starter homes and senior living options and just generally more accessible housing options, which are probably going to be smaller, single level sort of units. So I think this would help incentivize that. And I like that it's citywide, so it helps sort of streamline our overall regulations as opposed to having sort of area by area regulations. So I'm just rambling now. Yeah, I'm supportive.
Council President Wolf.
Essentially ditto down the line. And I think my only comment, Brittany, is first I just want to thank you for just the link to the Developers Forum, posting all the questions, all the follow-up letters. It was very helpful for me. I appreciated listening or watching the Developers Forum and just hearing the questions and even some of the confusion for someone that this is not at all in my wheelhouse. Just an appreciation of just trying to listen to them and hear from our experts in building what their concerns were. So I support the direction and look forward to greater detail on how the rates are calculated and all those things that were discussed in the forum. So thank you.
Councilor Shaw?
Great, thank you very much. I'm concerned in some respects because there is, and it's particularly among immigrants and whether you're European, Latina, so forth, that they live in larger homes because there's multifamily generations. And so I feel I'm a little concerned about this emerging best practice because I think now we're disincentivizing and almost harming those families when there's been a big push for that. And if you look at the costs then that they're then going to have to either go to multiple 800 square foot cottages or a duplex, that's going to significantly increase the cost and also minimize care if there's a senior involved and even littles involved. So I'm struggling with that. I also struggle with, if the developers don't see this as being a viable option, they're not going to build, we're not going to have the housing, which I think we all know, but I want to be cognizant of that. And then I am concerned that this would be citywide. I'd like just to learn, and perhaps it's just more information. Brittany and a few other counselors who would like to meet, but I just have a concern citywide because I do think we've done our very good share and recognize we have somebody in the audience too who's tried to build middle-sized to lower-income housing. But I am concerned that we haven't been given credit for what we've built in the past, and if we do citywide, it could have some unintended consequences. So hopefully that helps. Thank you.
Councilor Guzzi, any comments?
Yes, thank you. One of my concerns actually mirrors exactly what Councilor Shaw was talking about, the concern that this policy may inadvertently discourage the bedrooms, which ends up being that equity issue, just something to keep in the back of your mind. Another question / concern that I have is with River Terrace 2.0. We know that it's going to require significant infrastructure, and we're simultaneously decreasing the charges on the housing that we're trying to encourage. So my main question is, for every dollar that we're reducing in that supplemental SDC, where does that money come from? And I know you showed some graphs that showed some of the shifting, but like there's nothing on the y-axis. The rates don't quite make sense and line up, so being very explicit with that. Thank you.
Councilor Robbins, any comments?
Thank you. I appreciate the presentation. It was very thorough. I think it's a good idea to do citywide, be fair for everyone in the city. My main concern is that it was a little reassuring that you said a couple times that it's budget neutral. I do have a question about if we encourage more of the smaller homes with the lower SDCs, what's that tipping point where we've then encouraged that so much that then we aren't making up for it with the larger homes? But that's not for me to try to calculate that out. But so the fact that in experience in other cities it has been budget neutral, that's reassuring.
Thank you. Yeah, for me, I really echo my fellow council members' approach. I support continuing to develop a tier SDC approach structure, but at the same time, I do wonder what budget neutral means, right? I just want to see, of course, more numbers will be coming, but I want to see what assumption you're making and how we're going to make sure that how we can course correct if it turns out that the developers are not building enough budget neutral buildings, how are we going to course correct, right? We don't want to, as Councilor Robbins said, if they start building a bunch of small homes, then we'll be in deficit. That will be a problem. Also, I think I also concur with Councilors Shaw and Guzzi about multi-generational housing, but I think we're going to talk next about apartments. So I'm not sure if we encourage large family to live in apartments. I'm not sure that's the right approach either, but I want to say that I'm concerned about that. And also just want to raise a concern or comment that one of the public comment raised is how we measure that this discount actually produced the desired housing type that we are seeking, right? So how are we going to measure that? So yeah, so that's just some of my questions. But overall, I support the approach that staff recommends. So.
Thank you, Mayor Hu and City Council. I appreciate all of your comments. I've taken extensive notes. We'll make sure that these comments are addressed in our presentation in November. I did want to just note quickly that the budget neutrality analysis is being prepared by Echo Northwest. So we'll be sure, I appreciate the input because it makes it clear what we should come prepared to discuss, the assumptions that went into it. They're going to be specifically looking at what development we've seen in Tigard over the last 10 years, and then also doing a second analysis of what do we think is going to be built in River Terrace 2.0? What are we trying to incentivize, and what would that look like for SDC revenue? So we'll be returning with those details. And then I'll use this opportunity to respond to the public comment that we received today, actually. And it's a great one. It's how can we ensure that lowering SDCs for developers actually translates to improved housing affordability? And the honest answer is that this does not. There is no direct mechanism to ensure that that happens. There are other tools and levers that the city has at its disposal, which will primarily be looked at through the Tigard Housing Plan and the Housing Production Strategy to find other ways to result in the lower costs of housing and other forms of needed housing that we're striving for. So if there are no other comments, then I think we can move on.
Oh, go ahead, Councilor Shaw.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Just a quick question, because I feel like I may have raised this at the study session at the time, but when we're talking about budget neutrality, are we talking about that specifically within the specific SDC funds that would be impacted by this? Because I know when people say deficit, then everyone thinks general fund, and then everyone thinks it's relating to all these other sort of piles of money. So I just want to confirm it's just the SDC funds that we would be analyzing, right?
Yes. Becky, do you have anything to add to that question?
No, that's correct. Yeah, that we would just be looking at the SDC revenue and how would the fee structure impact the SDC revenue that you would collect, which is separate from other sources that go into the general fund.
Okay, let's move on to the next apartment policy addendum.
Great. Next slide, please. Okay, so the next policy matter is our special considerations for apartments. So with an SDC structure that is tiered by unit size, our analysis showed that apartments need to be treated separately to prevent a disincentive for larger units. Community input and regional housing data identifies that family-size rentals over 1,200 square feet are needed in our area. I will go a little off script and note that this is one strategy to help support multi-generational housing. I completely understand that it is not an equity building strategy, but this is one. So when SDCs are based solely on unit size, fees for this type of housing unit increase significantly for larger apartments compared to what they are now. So to troubleshoot this issue, our consultant team recommends that we offer an alternative flat rate option to counteract this disincentive. So not only does it help support a regional shortfall of family-size units, but it also helps improve predictability for developers since it allows them to estimate their SDCs using a flat rate option well ahead of them finalizing any building plans. Next slide, please. So here we're showing total SDCs for two different apartment developments using both the tiered rate by unit size and the flat rate option. So the first development has more smaller units, while development 2 has more family size units. So with smaller units overall, development 1 is able to pay lower fees using that tiered rate, while when development 2 increased their family size units, they needed that flat rate to be able to keep their SDC rates as low as possible. The flat rate option here is effectively capping the rate for apartments, and it's preventing the tiered structure from acting as a disincentive to deliver the family-sized units. Next slide, please. So this brings us to the second request for housing policy direction. Does council concur with the consultant's recommendation to add a flat rate option for apartments to support family-sized units by lowering fees for developers?
We'll start with Councilor Robbins this time.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Yes.
May I ask a question?
You go ahead.
Great, thank you. So just Brittany, so I'm clear, so development 1, development 2 would have the same tiered structure, and that would be the $282,000 each?
Robert, can you please go back to the previous slide? I'm sorry, Councilor Shaw, can you please repeat your question?
And just in case anyone's watching, it's just Councilor Shaw. But the development 1 is the tiered structure flat rates, $282,000, and development 2 total at the bottom's at $282,000. So that would be the flat rate, whether it's development 1 or development 2?
That's right, that's correct. And in development 1's case, the numbers just play out a little bit more favorably if they went with the tiers.
I just wanted to make sure. I'm supportive of this and just noting that generation wealth is oftentimes produced by acquiring property, even if it's multi-generational, because then you can hand it down. If they're in apartments, it's a nice first step, but oftentimes a little more challenging. So I think this council would agree with that, but I just want to note it for the record. Thank you.
Councilperson Wolf?
Agree, support.
Councilor Schlack?
Yes, I support this.
Councilor Anderson?
Yes, I support. I think it's going to give them some consistency and for the developer.
Same here.
Great, thank you all very much. If we can go 2 slides forward, I'm going to just quickly wrap up with some next steps. Next slide, please. So the team continues to work on our system development charges. We're finalizing the data analysis, and then based on the direction that you provided this evening, we will finalize the rates, and we'll be sharing them at our next meeting on November 17th. So we'll also provide a specific city leadership and consultant recommendation at that time on November 17th. And we'll be asking for council's final direction on if the recommendations and the rates align with city council policy or if additional steps are needed for this work. Next slide. The River Terrace 2.0 project also remains on track. We are working to refine and write development code amendments right now, and then we will also have engagement on the code in September with developers and the Community Advisory Committee. We're also hitting grant milestones in November, and then we will see you again on November 17th. That concludes the staff presentation. I appreciate all of your input and direction this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Brittany. Any other last comments, questions? No? Thank you so much for the presentation. Have a good evening. All right, so we don't have non-agenda item or executive session, so we're still ahead of schedule. Great. So there being no additional item, this meeting is adjourned. Good night, Tiger.